everyone, thanks so much for being able to join me for this virtual birding tour of the Manchester Cedar Swamp Preserve. My name's Charlotte, and I'm a stewardship assistant and volunteer coordinator for the Nature Conservancy in southern New Hampshire. For those who have never visited the preserve before, it's located in the northwest corner of Manchester, the largest city in New Hampshire. It comprises approximately 75% of this forested block and protects a variety of unique wetlands, including the state's highest quality Atlantic white cedar wetlands. These wetlands are home to a distinctive suite of plant species, including the state-threatened giant rhododendron and black gum trees. The diversity and quality of habitats that the preserve protects supports a variety of wildlife. Visitor and neighbor sightings, as well as animal evidence left behind, have confirmed that mammals from moose and bear to porcupines and otters all utilize the land protected by the Manchester Cedar Swamp Preserve. Additionally, the preserve is ranked as a birding hotspot in Hillsborough County, as over 100 species of birds have been observed there, according to eBird. This is the official trail system at the Manchester Cedar Swamp, concentrated in the northeast corner of the preserve. Each trail is marked with different colored trail markers, making it easy to know when you're leaving one trail and entering another. These are all the locations where we'll be stopping along the trails. I'll tell you about the habitats we're in and which bird species are likely to be seen or heard in these locations. I'll be focusing almost entirely on migratory species, which have been encountered and reported this spring by volunteers. So now, without further delay, I'm all set with my binoculars, and we're ready to start the tour. All right, everyone, we've arrived at our first stop along the woodland loop. Now we're here in a dry oak woodland. The canopy is dominated by red, white, and black oak, as well as American beech and some scattered white pines. The understory layer in this forest is comprised mostly of heaths, including blueberry and huckleberry. This oak forest has a high canopy comprised mostly of deciduous tree species. Because of this, there is a thick layer of leaf litter on the forest floor, teeming with insects and invertebrates, which our first bird of interest will be hunting for all spring and summer long. I think I hear one now. That was an ovenbird. These large warblers arrived at the preserve in early May. They prefer large, mature, mostly deciduous forests during the breeding season. Let's listen to that song again. The ovenbird's song sounds like they're saying, "Teacher, teacher, teacher," increasing in volume with each repetition. Male ovenbirds have a reddish crown bordered by dark lateral crown stripes. Males and females both have bold white eye rings with olive-colored backs and dark, bold streaking on their chest and sides. Ovenbirds forage by hunting insects and invertebrates in the leaf litter, moving slowly on the forest floor, scratching and flipping over leaves. While ovenbirds are most likely to be heard singing from a low perch or seen foraging on the forest floor, other bird species in this forest are more likely to be heard from above in the tree canopy. A common canopy dweller here is the pine warbler. Pine warblers are short-distance migrants and arrived at the preserve in April. Their song is a repeated, single-pitched trill. Listen closely. As their name suggests, pine warblers prefer pine forests, as well as mixed pine deciduous forests in the spring and summer. Both adult male and female pine warblers have yellow throats with broken yellow eye rings and 2 white wing bars. Males are more brightly colored than females. If you're lucky enough to get eyes on this energetic little warbler, you'll probably see it hopping along branches high in trees, picking up caterpillars, ants, and arthropods. You might also see them hunting for insects within the deeply furrowed bark in tall pine trees. Now listen closely. I think I hear our next canopy dweller singing. That's a scarlet tanager singing. First reported in mid-May at the preserve, scarlet tanagers are long-distance migrants that prefer large, unbroken tracts of mature deciduous and mixed forests. Male scarlet tanagers establish and defend large territories by singing very high in the canopy. Let's listen to that song one more time. These stunning birds really stand out in the canopy if you're lucky enough to spot one. Adult males have bright red bodies with jet black wings and tails. These birds spend much of their time walking along branches high in the canopy, eating insects, fruit, and buds. Females look quite different than males, and their coloration makes them very well camouflaged. Scarlet tanagers nest very high in the canopy, usually 50 feet or higher, utilizing broad deciduous leaf clusters to obscure their nests. Those were some great birds. We're going to keep going along the woodland loop now until we reach our next point of interest. All right, so we've arrived at our first trail junction. The woodland loop here splits off onto the cedar loop, which we're going to take and head down into the Atlantic white cedar swamp that gives this preserve its name. The Cedar Loop Boardwalk takes us through a small part of a much larger cedar swamp. The canopy in this forest is a mix of Atlantic white cedar, red maple, and black gum trees. The understory is dominated by mountain laurel and sheep laurel, shrubs which are adapted to thrive in these nutrient-poor acidic soils. The ground here is constantly waterlogged, and a variety of ferns grow atop sphagnum moss carpeted mounds. Listen closely now. I think I can hear our first bird of interest calling. That's a veery calling. Veeries are long-distance migrants that spend the breeding season in damp, swampy woodlands with dense understories. Though they call often throughout the day, you'll usually only hear them singing in the early morning or near dusk. Let's listen to that song. The veery song sounds like a metallic whirl that descends slightly in pitch. Veeries have plump bodies with a uniform cinnamon brown coloration on their upper parts and faint spotting on their throat and chest. Veeries forage mostly on the ground and in the understory foliage, hunting for insects such as beetles, ants, wasps, grasshoppers, and occasionally small amphibians. They also nest on or near the ground, sometimes utilizing the soft vegetation growing on mossy hummocks or under a fallen tree. Another bird you might hear singing in the cedar swamp is the red-eyed vireo. These are long-distance migrants, and males of this species sing tirelessly throughout the day all summer long. Their song is a series of slurred notes, each phrase ending with an up or down slur before a short pause. Let's give it a listen. Red-eyed vireos can be tough to spot, but their coloration is quite distinctive. Both males and females have a blue-gray crown and a white eyebrow, bordered above and below with a black lateral stripe. They have olive-colored backs and pale underparts with some yellow toward the tail. Only adults have a ruby-red iris, which is difficult to see unless at close range. Red-eyed vireos can be found in deciduous and mixed forests with complex shrubby understories. Although their diet changes throughout the year, they eat mostly invertebrates in the summer. They hunt in the understory and canopy, picking moths, mosquitoes, cicadas, and other insects off branches and foliage. Our final bird of interest here in the cedar swamp is the hermit thrush, one of my personal favorites. The hermit thrush song is a metallic whirl sung in 3 distinct phrases. Let's listen. While they do look similar to the veery, the hermit thrush has a distinct reddish rump and tail, which they tend to raise while foraging. They also have darker spots on their throat and chest. Hermit thrushes are short-distance migrants and use a variety of habitats during the breeding season. They're often observed foraging in open areas, including trails, pond edges, and in canopy gaps. Cedar wetlands provide great habitat for hermit thrushes because there are ample forest openings created by fallen trees. They forage for insects on the forest floor, hopping and then peering down at the ground to spot whatever they've rustled up. Hermit thrushes nest on the ground or in low vegetation, usually in a spot obscured by branches. Let's keep the tour moving now. We're going to get back on the woodland loop until we reach our next trail junction. All right, so we've arrived at our second trail junction. This is where the woodland loop meets the rhododendron loop. Let's see what this trail has in store for us. The first section of the rhododendron loop trail brings us through a power line corridor, shown on the map by a thick shaded line through the preserve. Corridors such as these can provide valuable edge habitat to many bird species, and the vegetation within the corridor is the ideal height to accommodate birds that use shrub-scrub habitats. One such bird is the eastern towhee. Listen to this towhee's calls as I encountered him right at the forest edge before entering the power line corridor. Male and female towhees both make these calls. Only male towhees sing a loud, three-part song often described as "drink your tea." Let's listen. Eastern towhees are short-distance migrants and were first reported at the preserve in late April this year. They spend the breeding season in areas with dense shrub cover and leaf litter, such as forest edges, overgrown fields, scrubby areas, and thickets. Adult males have red eyes, black throats, and upper parts, in contrast to females which have brown throats and upper parts. Otherwise, both sexes have thick bills, long tails, reddish sides, and white bellies. Eastern towhees are opportunistic eaters and will eat seeds, fruits, insects, and invertebrates throughout the breeding season. They forage by walking and hopping on the ground, scratching at leaf litter with their feet. Another bird to listen for in the power line corridor is the prairie warbler. These medium-distance migrants were first reported at the preserve in early May. They sing a buzzy, repetitive song that rises in pitch. Let's listen. Adult male prairie warblers are bright yellow with a black eyeline and black semicircle under their eye. They also have a patch of chestnut-colored feathers on their back and have black streaking down their sides. Females are a paler yellow with lighter streaking on their sides and head. These small warblers utilize a range of shrubby habitats, including regenerating forests, overgrown fields, and even tree farms. They hunt for insects and invertebrates in low foliage and sometimes even catch flying insects in the air. When they land on a perch, they often wag their tail up and down. Our third bird of interest here is one with a very easy song to remember. It's the eastern wood pewee. These little flycatchers sing throughout the day, and their song sounds just like they're saying their name. Pewee! Listen. Eastern wood pewees have gray heads and upper parts with a small, slightly raised crest on their head. They have long tails and their wings have 2 white wing bars. Their chest is a very light gray with a thin strip of white in the middle. First reported at the preserve in late May this year, eastern wood pewees breed in all sorts of wooded habitats in the eastern United States, but are usually found in clearings and forest edges. These birds hunt by perching on mid-story branches and lifting off to catch flying insects on the wing. Popular peewee prey includes flies, butterflies, moths, beetles, stoneflies, and mayflies. Before we get to the actual loop portion of the Rhododendron Loop Trail, we'll be taking a bridge to cross Millstone Brook and passing through the power line corridor again, so you'll have even more chances to listen for these beautiful birds. Okay everyone, keep your ears peeled. We've finally arrived at the loop portion of the Rhododendron Loop Trail. The Rhododendron Loop brings us down to a lower elevation, and it's where you're going to see a lot of our state-threatened giant rhododendron, like I have here behind me. You may also notice a higher abundance of hemlocks in this forest. Upon entering the Rhododendron Loop, I encountered a warbler singing this song. Listen closely. That was a black and white warbler. Males sing a very high-pitched, repetitive song that lasts about 3 seconds and can vary in tempo. Listen again. These distinctive little warblers were first reported at the preserve in late April this year. Black and white warblers usually use deciduous and mixed forests during the breeding season. They prey mostly on insects by crawling along tree trunks and thick limbs while probing the bark for grubs. The rhododendron loop is surrounded by water. Millstone Brook trickles into water impoundments maintained by beavers. Listen closely to our next bird of interest. That was a common yellowthroat. These warblers arrived in early May. Males sing often in late spring and summer. Their song sounds a lot like witchety, witchety, witchety. Listen again. This is a female common yellowthroat. Both sexes are brownish above, with yellow throats and underparts, but only the males have a distinctive black mask. Common yellowthroats utilize many types of habitats featuring wet areas with low, dense vegetation such as wetland edges, drainage areas, orchards, and fields. This habitat is also used by the northern water thrush. These long-distance migrants arrived at the preserve in early May, singing their loud, ringing, 3-part song. Let's listen. Despite its name, the northern water thrush is actually a warbler and not a thrush at all. They have long legs and a long body, brown upper parts, and a tan to yellowish belly with heavy streaking. They also have a long, buffy eyebrow. Northern water thrushes use wet habitats with dense ground cover, including wooded swamps, bogs, and thickets bordering wetlands. They prey almost exclusively on aquatic larval insects, foraging in shallow water, on muddy banks, and in wet leaves, logs, and rocks. They bob their body up and down constantly as they hunt. Okay, everybody, we're going to keep moving and head back to the woodland loop for our final point of interest. Here we are, everyone. We've returned to the woodland loop and have arrived at our final point of interest along the trail. This location gives us a great view of one of the wetlands stemming from Millstone Brook. Much like the rhododendron loop, birds that we're likely to hear in this area also like mixed forest with wet areas and a thick understory. One example would be the winter wren. These are short-distance migrants that were first reported at the preserve in early April. They have a long, beautiful, and complex song, which males sing often earlier in the season from an elevated perch in the understory. Let's listen. Winter wrens are quite small, with very round bodies and a short, stubby tail which they usually hold upright. Their coloration is brown overall, with darker barring on their belly, wings, and tail. Like other species of wrens, male winter wrens build multiple nests earlier in the season, which they will later show to a female and let her choose which one she prefers. They forage mostly on the ground and in low vegetation, picking up beetles, mites, millipedes, and spiders. They also search within crevices in decaying wood and upturned roots. Another bird you might hear in this area is the black-throated green warbler. These long-distance migrants arrived in late April this year. Males sing a song that goes zee zee zo zo zee. Let's listen to it. Male black-throated green warblers have a bright yellow face with an olive green head, back, and ear patch. They also have a black throat, heavy black streaking down their sides, and 2 white wing bars. Females have similar coloration, but with lighter streaking on their sides, and may or may not have light patches of black on their throats. Black-throated green warblers eat mostly insects during the breeding season and have a strong preference for caterpillars, which they will pluck off of branches and leaves high in the canopy. Our final bird of interest here is a lesser-known songbird. It's the brown creeper. Brown creepers live in New Hampshire year-round, and a volunteer reported seeing one building a nest at the preserve in late March this year. Only males sing their very high-pitched song. The song usually starts with a single high note, followed by a series of jumbled notes. Listen carefully. Brown creepers are very small birds with a long tail, slim body, and a slender, down-curved bill. They have white underparts, and their mottled brown backs help to camouflage them with tree bark. They prefer forests with large, mature trees. They spend most of their time climbing up large tree trunks in search of insects and larvae within deeply furrowed bark. Once they are near the top of the trunk, they fly back down and start at the bottom of another one. Brown creepers usually build their nests in a dead or dying tree, between the trunk and a loose sheet of bark. The female uses insect cocoons, spider webs, and egg cases to stick the nest materials to each other and the inner surface of the bark. Well, everyone, that was the last bird of our virtual birding tour. Let's meet back on the trail to go over a few things before heading back to the trailhead. Okay, everybody, we've reached the end of our tour, and I hope you've really enjoyed it. I just want to end with a few birding tips for you. It's a good idea to bring binoculars and a field guide with you, so that in case you do see something and you're not sure what it is, you'll be able to look it up in your reference guide. Sometimes it's a good idea to get to an isolated area on the trail and just find a log or a rock where you can sit and observe and listen. The more you practice, the better you'll get at sighting birds with your binoculars. It's also a good idea to make sure you're prepared with water and some snacks, because you never really know how long you're going to end up staying out. It's important to keep in mind that sometimes birding is hit or miss. You might think that the morning is the best time to go birding, but if it's windy or if it's a little too chilly, you might not hear very much.